Please stand for a moment of silence and then pledge. Now pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I feel like we're in each other's bubble over here.
Okay, next line item, review of the agenda. This is a special meeting, that can't do anything other than to take anything off, can't add anything, so. We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt.
I second the motion.
We have a first and a second, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Any public comments? Can someone check, please? Any?
Lindsay, can you check that paper and see if I got it?
Okay. Okay, thank you. So internal board business, consider approval of revised BG1 for Early Childhood Education Center. I don't have a name next to it. Okay, Mr. John Hagan. Yeah, there you go.
All right. We've got all kinds of information, so I don't know which way you want to go, but just to kind of recap how we got to this point, we originally took bids on September the 15th, I believe it was. Original base bid cost for the project was $21,209,398. The original base bid with all the alternates, which included all the owner-preferred hardware, HVAC. The biggest one is number one, the classroom edition, obviously, but there's some others as well. That totaled $23,098,587. So since that time, since the September board meeting, we were charged with doing some value engineering, scaling the project down as much as we possibly could. So we entered into competitive negotiations with the lowest contractors, the three lowest contractors for each bid package. The savings that was able to be pulled out of the base bid cost $2,154,387. The savings to the base bid and all the alternates, $2,208,374. So that brings us to tonight's proposed cost, base bid only, $19,055,011. The revised base bid plus all the alternates, $20,890,213. This is construction cost only. Just construction cost does not include any of the soft costs, architect, construction manager, furniture, those types of things. I did send an email. I'm reading basically this verbatim, but the big things that this does not include: playground equipment, the main bus canopy, and the library furniture. And we've got the exact cost to those if we want to discuss those, but I did want to point that out. That does not include those three items. And, excuse me, and the landscaping, which we're planning to rebid as we approach the actual time to perform that work. Standalone bid package, probably, as the time to install approaches, get a better price.
What's the pricing on the playground, bus canopy, and library furniture?
The bus canopy, the one that we would propose to add back into the project, $74,276.
Okay.
The playground equipment, from memory, was about $176,000, I believe. I've got that somewhere. $176,650. The planter beds and the fabric shades in the playground area was an additional $38,450. So a little over $200,000 in savings, which we had discussed potentially utilizing some existing playground equipment that you already own, or rebidding that at a later date as well.
Didn't we put our playground equipment on a rotation?
We did. That's part of the money that we committed. So that money is set aside for playground rotation. That's correct. So that money is also available for furniture, for roofs, So I think one of the big tasks going forward with our new COO working with maintenance is kind of prioritizing that list to see where we're at with the district. So we thought, based on that report, we could then look and see if that's something we could do with preschool, or if we move ahead with the project, we can also do some negotiation with Head Start. We just can't do that until they know we're moving forward with the project. Those are also, so one of the reasons we took it off, because we had several options to cover it at a later date to provide some savings up front. But again, all these things are for you guys to review and add or not, or
Likely we'll pay for that stuff out of contingency. You know, you have a contingency.
that would be another option that we would know close to the end of the project.
Which, based on the, this one is the,
Wasn't made this time.
with all the alternates, we'd be looking at a contingency fund. Where is that? Just over $1 million.
Is that 5%
Yes, sir.
that goes?
Yep, that is correct. If I could jump in and just add a couple of things. As we went through the value engineering process, we looked at things that would not negatively impact the educational opportunities in the facility. So, you know, the classroom spaces and the common spaces, we left those mostly intact with a few minor changes there to some finishes and some ceilings that are not even going to be noticeable. We really focus on the site and the exterior of the building and look for savings there. And that's where we got the value engineering. It's really important that we kept the educational components and the opportunities that exist there intact. And, you know, John Hagan went through the kind of construction costs, but I think you've got the two draft BG1s
Yes.
for consideration that kind of shows you a total project cost based on base bid only, which was the construction value of $19,055,000. That project cost ends up being $22,633,000. And then for the base bid plus all the alternates, which includes the additional classroom wing, the learning community that adds 5 classrooms that will increase the capacity of this facility by 100 students. That construction cost, as John Hagan mentioned, was the $20,890,000, and that creates a project cost of $24,654,000.
There's a lot of, in the BG1, there's a lot of fees, obviously, over the construction cost. $682,000, the construction manager fee. Is all those set by state? Is that correct? That's what I thought.
Right, that's a KDE calculation based on the duration of the project and the percentage of construction, new construction.
Yeah, Katie has standard rates for architect, design team, and construction manager. So those are set by the state.
What is our total bonding capacity at the moment?
25.
25? And how long will this construction project take?
Approximately 22 months.
So 2 years. What would our bonding capacity be at the end of 2 years? Do we have that information?
We usually get about $2 million every 2 years. But it depends on how much you're paying off, the bonds you're paying off on the construction you've done in the past. GRC's 10 years old, so in the next 10 years, we'll get a significant increase in our capacity once GRC's paid for and built.
Okay.
There's some other ones that are a little older than that, but as those projects fall off, our capacity raises pretty considerably.
And we've got approximately 1.4 million in old BG1s that was closed that could apply to this project?
1.3 is what I,
1.3. Which that's not calculated in any of this, right?
that's correct.
Okay.
It is if you go down the page.
Is it? Oh,
So that would be the monies that we're adding.
the
So that's
1.4.
actually all that we're bonding. And then that's taken off too.
So what would we be bonding? We bonding 20,396,000? Okay. So at 25, bonding 20, so we have 5 million plus 7 in 2 years when this is done. Well, plus 2, which would be 7. I know y'all got some questions.
No, you're covering them all. Keep going. It's this.
One of the things that we've had discussions, or I think Mr. Howard's had discussions individually with us, is the ability possibly to be able to use, if we did the larger version, the 450, the 450 seat, is utilize the building for maybe even other uses, additional uses, be able to supply some additional resources for teachers that's here in the district now, to reserve spots for their young children as well. So I think if we did this, if we approved this, I would not go with the lower version. I would do the one with alternates. What would your opinion?
That would be my recommendation, to give us room to have a long-term vision, to deal with growth, deal with some of the elementary schools, deal with, not deal with, but help support our students' needs outside the students that qualify just for preschool. And I think that's more of a visionary approach versus, minimalistic. So that would be my recommendation as well.
That's where I'm at with it as well, because I mean, that's what I've said all along. I don't want to just throw something up to be throwing it up, just to have a preschool. So I'm right there with you all, personally.
And I do have a question. So with the, and if I'm using the wrong terminology, but the heating cooling system, are you all changing that? Did that get changed in the new
No.
alternate? So what would it be?
It'd be the geothermal
It would,
system.
so that's not going to be changed in the bid. It's not changed.
Correct.
Okay. Then the awnings can be added on at a later date.
Yes,
So you're
absolutely.
going to build it. Parking. Can you talk a little bit about? Is there any change in what kind of parking you're going to?
I think the only spaces that we eliminated were like 6 down in the
Yeah, we
lower
did
end of
some
the building.
rearrangement at the service drive, and eliminated some pavement where the drive comes around. There was a net loss of 6 or 7 spaces.
Just a handful of spaces.
But we were able to claim a lot of those back with the way it was reconfigured. And there's a lot of opportunity for additional parking in the future. If we wanted to identify, there are spaces that we could certainly build out as additional parking with relative ease.
And the awning is very important to the preschool folks. Getting those children from buses to the building under an awning was huge in the programming phase. They really wanted to protect those children into that building. And for $70,000, I would strongly recommend the board consider that.
As a parent who had a child in preschool, it's been, when it was on Waynescott, having to drag him up the ramp in snow, rain. I remember those days. It was not easy. But I had to go to the preschool today and just hung out with them for a little bit and saw that. And those are questions that I was interested in, because it is important, the little kids. So, and I'm on board with Bill and Ashley on the alternate. Because I think that is, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right.
Exactly.
Well, with additional, first of all, the preschools project has skyrocketed from 2 years ago, 3 years
Right.
ago when we started. And do you see, I mean, in the regular world outside of education, it doesn't look like the prices are going down anytime
No, sir.
soon. It's just going to continue. When the price is established, it's just going to continue to climb. So, in my understanding is these bids are only good until tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. And that was actually after we asked for an extension from the contractors.
Okay. And then I just kind of want to go through all the scenarios. So any real estate that comes available that the school system may have could be purchased to pay down the debt, if so chose. Is that-
That's correct. So if we were to sell a property, one of the ones we own, once that's sold, the money that we bring in can then be reallocated to either reducing debt or going towards bonding capacity in the future. Those would be our two options. Is that correct?
I think it's absolutely correct.
Okay.
So that could reduce these numbers, or add on some of the things that you guys really want to add on to the project if it fell within a time to work it. The key is ordering it and making that change order fast enough that we can actually get the product on site if we want it to go in before the kids get there.
I hate to put you on the spot, but what is our contingency fund at the moment? Do we,
So we're at 10% contingency. So that's about 7 million.
7 million?
And that's not including the 3 million that you have committed towards those other projects. So you have that as kind of your safety fund if something were to go. Yep.
I think one conversation, well, it was a conversation I had today with Mr. Howard about the future, you know, looking at longevity and what we will need in Clark County. And, you know, there's just several ideas that we can, things that can happen, such as, and I also talked to Mrs. Blanton too about this, but, you know, for children who maybe aren't doing well in kindergarten when they come into school, having like a specialized kindergarten and even overflow from maybe Strode Station since it's on that side of town. I mean, there's so many things that we could do with this to make it, and I like the idea of calling it the early childhood. It's not just going to be for such a specific group. It's going to be for the whole community. And I think that in our future, looking at our future, we have, obviously we're not going to need a new high school anytime soon. Our middle school, junior high it has room. You could do things. There's lots of space there still. In the elementary schools, my understanding, having on the community forum, I was luckily on the building construction group, so I got a lot of good information. And you know, I didn't realize until the elementary schools could be added on in the future, and so that is really a good thing. So to know, I'm just making statements here. I don't really have any questions.
No, I think it's good for the public to know,
for the
yeah.
public to know. This is the research that we've done. Like all three of us have done 3 different things to come together in this, and I think you know, after talking to Mr. Howard today and understanding our priority 1 things, and we talked about alternatives for Phoenix, for so on. So there's other things we can do, but for this, you know, coming up with a decision. And the other thing, I think the preschool staff, they've not felt like the boards of the past have been transparent with them or given them an answer. And I feel like we're at a point where we need to be able to be transparent and give them an answer. Because some of them have been there for many years. A lot of them were there when my son was there, and he's in high school now. So, and Mrs. Blanton was there as a teacher when he was there. So there's a longevity there at the preschool in the teachers and staff.
Yeah, and I completely agree. The preschool needs to be addressed. It was the community, there was outpouring of community both for the athletic complex and the preschool at that time. And there was more for the athletic complex, but this was the next project. And this is what that board said, you know, it needs to be done. So I agree, and it's time.
I was on that board. And I was on that
You were on
board.
that board.
And that was one thing, I mean, when I voted for the athletic complex, because I did at that time, and we looked at it as something that could go on and start bringing in funding so that we could go on and start this project. We did not figure in COVID and all the other stuff that came in. But that was kind of the thinking behind it back then, was let's get the athletic complex up, start bringing in funding, then we can start the preschool. And back then I said I didn't want to do a halfway preschool. I wanted to do it and do it right, just like we were doing the athletic complex. So
There's also a really great like a community action council in the what's the federal precinct, Head Start. You know, they're also involved there. And so if you're, you know, in the public, people might not be aware of all those things that come in from that program. And you know, I got to see some of the things that community action has brought to our community for our children, and that's a wonderful thing. So we have that partnership. And so there's all these resources that we have, and just coming from my background, this is a group of children who, if we get them that early, they'll be more successful in school as they move forward. So
Can you talk about the process? So if this is approved tonight, what's the next steps? What does, signing of the bonds, when does that happen? Just kind of talk through that process of the BG1, has to go back, does that have to go back and get approved? Because it's
We need to
revised.
approve the BG1, send it to KDE. We would start drafting contracts immediately. I'll probably notify the contractors tonight, and then we'll come back next month with actual contracts for approval and schedule a bond sale.
The board did adopt House Bill 678, which means we're not contingent upon KD approval.
That's right.
So as soon as we send our BG1s in, we can immediately start the process.
Okay.
But to clarify, you would bring something back to us next
Correct, yep.
meeting?
At the
We would
regular meeting in
review
December.
all the contractors' contracts that are direct with the district, so.
Yeah. Anybody have any more questions?
No.
We've worked very hard behind the scenes, so just because we're not asking a lot of questions, because a lot of questions have been answered. So, we've bombarded,
Yes, and we
a lot of
appreciate the
people, so.
time. Because I know I've asked a dozen million questions because it wanted to do the research and be prepared and not be agonizing over it when we got here tonight. So, and we appreciate.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what we're here for. We'll try to hopefully
And
make it easy for you.
Mr. Howard of all.
Yes.
All right. So how do you want
We have a
to?
motion? Or I'll make a motion, or? I'll make a motion to approve the revised BG, make sure I get this right.
Yeah, no, that's what I was.
BG1 project application for the new early childhood center preschool to include the additions to 450 class, to accommodate 450 students.
I'll second.
A third, if that was possible.
All in favor, say
Aye.
passes. Congratulations. I'm still waiting for that, Congratulations.
We got tears back there.
It's long overdue. We know that. Unfortunately, like Ms. Ritchie stated, COVID just has caused a delay, so.
We're the most patient people you'll ever meet. Come to our classroom.
Oh, you have to.
Verify that.
Yes. Okay, next item, discuss and approve for the board to enter contract negotiations to hire a board facility consultant. Ms. Ritchie?
Okay, you got to throw this. So, speaking of all the behind the scenes stuff, we soon learned that we were a little bit in over our heads and a little bit, I mean, when you start talking to me about, what was it you were trying to tell me, John Hagan? I was like, I have no idea what you're speaking Greek. Like the
Geothermal?
yeah, no, it was something to do with the ground. So anyway, we've had this conversation, and Dora and I were like, so we decided that it might be a little easier if we brought somebody in to help the board. I call it, dumb it down for me, and break it down for me a little bit so I understand kind of what's going on. And then Dora and I talked about that, and she was like, oh, that'd be great, because we also realized that we're going to be bringing on 2 more new board members that are going to try to figure out and wade through all this as well along this process. So we want to make sure that we get all this done the right way and efficient, and throwing it on Donald's lap and being like, okay, fix this too while you're over here doing all this other stuff is just a lot. Then we've got Dustin that we're like, okay, here you go. We've brought you on and we want you to fix everything and then build a preschool too. So we all kind of, went through Dustin again, because that's the only way we can do it right now, and decided that this might be the best route to go. And yeah,
But don't care.
no, I won't jump in there.
This is a very expensive project, obviously, for us, so we
Right.
want to make sure that if there is any money to be saved, or make sure it goes as smooth as possible, we have someone that can bring any issues to us immediately and know they have no strings that they have to report to the board, that someone that's experienced, that has overseen facilities. So that's kind of what we were thinking, and this is just to, this item here is to discuss and to enter those contract negotiations, gives us permission to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, and when this came up and, well, okay, I kind of started this whenever I got to thinking about everything and how much we were going to be, how much it was going to entail and everything the board was going to be going through over the next several months. There was only kind of, I'm just going to put this out, one person that kind of came to mind of where we need to go with this and who's kind of overseeing projects. And so I called, spoke with Mr. Howard, got his opinion, then took it to Bill. It was like, okay, what do you think? So, and then here we are. And then, but there's only been one person that's kind of overseen our building since, what did we say, I think you told me, didn't you, John Hagan, 1990
It's been a while.
something, and that would be Paul Christie. He's pretty great at managing and building and doing whatever, and so he has also got a company where that's what he does. He oversees just construction. So it kind of seemed like a no-brainer that we bring him in, let him oversee this construction, work with John Hagan, come back, report to the board, tell us what's going on, work with Mr. Howard, kind of go back and forth with him a little bit, and help us all out as we navigate through this so he can speak the lingo to us that we understand and get you all a preschool.
And we also have a new operation.
Yes.
Director coming on. Sorry, I probably don't have your title down pat just yet. Chief Operating Officer.
Yes.
So, welcome, by the way.
Thank you, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, so, I think it's a good time. We got a lot of new board, we got some, we're going to have some new board members and, new people in the district, and we're all going in the same direction, and everything is great. It's just, let's just make sure we don't miss anything. That's kind of what this oversight is.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just to
That's
kind
all
of
it is.
help us along, and like I said, with everything, it seemed like,
Is there that, I
Board
ask you,
policy allows you all to hire consultants. They need to submit a proposal with the proposed scope and cost to the board for approval. So if they could do that and then put it on the next month.
that's what is going, yeah.
okay,
That's kind of where we were. We just kind of wanted to go and,
And the person cannot oversee personnel for the district. That
right,
way there's no violation of board
the
having.
what now? What'd you say?
Whoever is the consultant would answer to the board, but personnel in the district would not answer to them.
Oh, okay, I got
They're
you.
the
Yes.
consulting role,
yeah,
not a managerial
and vice
role.
versa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
so are we allowed to go ahead and make any motions tonight so he can start contract negotiations?
Per the policy, I believe he would need to submit a proposal with the scope and projected cost, he or she, whoever it is, to the board for approval.
okay.
Okay. Because, I mean, that's,
So there's no motion to be made tonight, or
You
that
can make
needs
a
to make
motion to solicit
proposals?
proposals.
Okay. You want it, that's up to you, how you want to,
just broadly, or,
Yeah,
Mhm.
solicit proposals from consultants, however you worded the,
make a motion to solicit, facility consult, board facility consultant proposals.
okay. What you said?
What I said,
Yeah.
I said I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
All
Sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7 o'clock on the dot.
My sister